The single dad stood at the bank counter holding a crumpled $7 bill in one hand and his daughter's medical receipt in the other. He had been waiting for nearly 40 minutes. His 6-year-old daughter, Mia, sat beside him in a faded pink jacket, swinging her legs beneath the chair. "Dad," she whispered, "are we going home soon?" Almost. He smiled at her. But inside, he was worried. The electricity bill was due that afternoon. The refrigerator was almost empty. And the clinic had called that morning about Mia's prescription. He had transferred almost all of his available money to another account the previous night. There was just one problem. A small automatic payment had gone through, leaving his checking account $7 short of the minimum balance required to complete the transfer. He could have waited. He could have called customer service. But Mia needed her medicine. So he had taken $7 from the emergency cash envelope in his kitchen and driven to the bank. It should have been simple. Deposit $7. Bring the account above the minimum. Complete the transfer. Buy Mia's medicine. Go home. Daniel Carter had learned to live by simple plans. After his wife died, complicated plans had become dangerous. He was 38 years old and had been raising Mia alone for almost 4 years. His wife, Emily, had died unexpectedly after a medical emergency. Since then, Daniel had become both parents. He packed school lunches, braided Mia's hair badly, helped with homework, sat beside her when she had nightmares. And every night before bed, he checked that she had everything she needed for the next morning. He had also learned never to let Mia see when he was scared. That morning, he was very scared. Not because he was poor. He wasn't. But because there was a reason he kept his finances complicated. Daniel had spent years building wealth quietly. He had sold a technology company years earlier and invested the money carefully. He owned stakes in several businesses. He had accounts managed by financial professionals. He had more money than he could reasonably spend in a lifetime. But he kept one ordinary checking account at the local bank. It had been his first account. The account he had opened when he was 22. The account where his first paycheck had been deposited. The account his wife had once used to buy groceries. Daniel had never closed it. He kept it because it reminded him of where he had started. The balance was usually small. He used it for everyday expenses. Nobody at the branch knew about his other accounts. And Daniel preferred it that way. He didn't want special treatment. He didn't want people smiling at him because of his wealth. He wanted to be treated like everyone else. That morning, he was about to discover how badly that could go. After 40 minutes, the line finally moved. Daniel stepped toward the counter. The teller glanced up. Next, he approached. "Good morning. ID." Daniel handed it over. The teller typed his information into the computer. Her expression changed. "There's a problem." Daniel's stomach tightened. "What kind of problem?" "Your account is below the required balance." "I know. You're short $7. He pulled the crumpled bill from his wallet. "I came to deposit it." The teller stared at the bill, then at him. "Is this all?" "Yes." She looked at the screen again. "Sir, this account has had several low balance fees recently." "I know. You've also had 2 return payments." "I know. I'm not trying to be rude, but you need to manage the account better." Daniel took a breath. "I understand." He didn't explain. He didn't tell her about the millions sitting in other accounts. He didn't tell her that the return payments were caused by a transfer schedule. He didn't tell her that the money would be moved within the hour. He simply said, "I need the $7 deposited." The teller sighed. "There's a service fee." Daniel blinked. "How much?" $10. He stared at her. "So you're charging me $10 to deposit $7? That's the policy. Is there another option? You can open a different account." "I don't want another account." "Then I can't help you." Daniel glanced at Mia. She was drawing something on a piece of paper. A house. 3 people stood in front of it. Daniel recognized himself. Mia had drawn her mother beside them. Daniel swallowed. He turned back to the teller. "Please." The teller leaned closer. "Sir, we have other customers waiting." "I understand. So if you don't have the required funds, there's nothing we can do." "I have the money. You have $7. "I have enough money." She gave him a skeptical look. "Then why are you worried about $7? Daniel didn't answer. Because he wasn't worried about the $7. He was worried about his daughter. That was different. The teller glanced at Mia again, then at Daniel's old jacket, his worn shoes, his inexpensive watch. She lowered her voice. "You should probably talk to someone about financial counseling." Daniel stared at her. "I'm not here for financial counseling. I'm just trying to help." "No." He paused. "I'm here to deposit $7. A man behind him sighed loudly. Come on. Another customer checked his watch. The teller became impatient. Sir, if you can't maintain the minimum balance, you may need to consider whether this account is appropriate for you. Daniel felt his face become warm. He looked around. People were watching. Mia looked up. Dad. He turned toward her. It's okay. The teller heard him. Then she said something Daniel would remember for years. Sweetheart, your dad needs to learn how to manage his money. Mia looked confused. Daniel's jaw tightened. He could have revealed everything. He could have told her exactly who he was. He could have shown her the financial statements on his phone. He could have called his private banker and had the branch manager's entire office rearrange itself around him. But he didn't. Instead, he looked at Mia. He saw the little girl who had already lost her mother. He saw the child who had watched him work through grief. He saw the person he had promised to protect. And he decided not to make a scene. He picked up the $7 bill. Thank you. The teller nodded. You're welcome. But then the branch manager approached. What seems to be the issue? The teller explained. The manager looked at Daniel. Then at the $7 bill. Sir, we can't make exceptions. I didn't ask for one. You've been informed of the policy. Yes. Then there's nothing more to discuss. Daniel nodded. Understood. He took Mia's hand. They walked toward the exit. Just before reaching the doors, Daniel's phone rang. He looked at the screen. Harrington Capital. He stopped. Mia looked up. Dad. 1 second. He answered. Hello. A man's voice immediately spoke. Mr. Carter, we've been trying to reach you. What happened? The acquisition board needs your approval immediately. Daniel looked toward the bank. Why? The valuation has crossed $18 billion. Daniel frowned. Already? Yes. And? The board is waiting for the controlling shareholder. Daniel glanced at Mia, then at the bank manager. The manager was watching him. Daniel lowered his voice. I'll call you back. He ended the call. Mia tugged at his hand. Was that work? Yes. Are you in trouble? Daniel smiled. No, sweetheart. Then he looked back at the bank. The teller was still watching. The manager was still standing there. Neither knew what the phone call meant. Neither knew that the man they had just humiliated over $7 controlled a fortune worth billions. Daniel opened the door. Cold air rushed inside. He stepped outside with his daughter. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Because within minutes, the same bank that had refused to help him over $7 would discover exactly who had been standing at its counter. The next morning, Daniel walked back into the same bank. But this time, everything was different. The security guard who had barely looked at him the previous day immediately stood straight. Good morning, Mr. Carter. Daniel nodded. Good morning. The guard opened the door for him. Inside, the branch was unusually quiet. The teller from yesterday was sitting behind her desk. The moment she saw Daniel, her face went pale. She had already heard. Everyone had. The previous evening, the branch manager had received an urgent call from the bank's regional office. A senior executive had asked one question. Do you know who Daniel Carter is? The manager had said yes. Then the executive had corrected him. No, you don't. He had explained that Daniel Carter was the controlling shareholder of several major investment companies. He had significant holdings in technology, energy, logistics, and healthcare. His private investment portfolio was worth billions. And the ordinary checking account the branch had treated like evidence of poverty? It wasn't even his primary financial account. It was simply an old account he kept for sentimental reasons. The manager had barely slept. At 8:30 the next morning, he called Daniel. Mr. Carter, I'd like to apologize personally. Daniel replied calmly. I'll be at the branch. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The manager didn't know what to say. Now Daniel stood inside the lobby. The manager hurried toward him. Mr. Carter. Daniel extended his hand. The manager shook it nervously. Please come into my office. Daniel looked at the teller, then at the people waiting in line. Why? We should discuss what happened. We can discuss it here. The manager hesitated. Daniel walked toward the counter. The teller stood up. Mr. Carter. He looked at her. She swallowed. I owe you an apology. Daniel nodded. Yes, you do. She looked down. I'm sorry for what I said. Which part? She looked confused. All of it. Daniel's voice remained calm. You told my daughter that I needed to learn how to manage my money. Her face reddened. I shouldn't have said that. No. You were frustrated. I understand. But you were wrong. She nodded. Yes. Daniel looked at her. Do you know why I didn't tell you about my other accounts yesterday? She shook her head. Because I shouldn't have to prove my worth to receive basic respect. The teller's eyes filled with tears. I understand. I hope you do. The manager stepped forward. Mr. Carter, we've reviewed the incident. And we've decided to refund every fee associated with your account. Daniel shook his head. Keep it, sir. Donate it. The manager blinked. Donate it to a local children's charity. We can arrange that. Good. The manager took a breath. We'd also like to offer you private banking services. Daniel smiled slightly. Why? We would be honored to manage your accounts. I already have people managing them. Of course. We can offer a dedicated team. No. Preferential rates. No. Investment services. No. The manager looked frustrated. What can we do? Daniel looked directly at him. Change how you treat people. The manager said nothing. Daniel continued. Yesterday, I walked into this bank with $7. Today, you know I have billions. Nothing about me changed overnight. You just learned something about me. The manager lowered his head. You're right. Daniel turned toward the lobby. There are people sitting out there with very little money. They may have $7. They may have 70 cents. They may be trying to deposit their last $10 to keep the electricity on. You don't know their story. The manager nodded. And you don't need to. Daniel paused. You simply need to treat them like human beings. The manager looked genuinely ashamed. We'll do better. Daniel nodded. That's all I wanted. He turned to leave. Then the teller spoke. Mr. Carter? He stopped. She stood behind the counter. I have something for you. She reached beneath the desk and pulled out a small envelope. Daniel opened it. Inside was his $7 bill. The exact bill he had brought the previous day. I kept it, she said. Why? Because after you left, I realized something. She took a breath. I judged you. Daniel said nothing. I saw your clothes. Your old car. Your daughter. And I decided I knew what kind of person you were. She looked embarrassed. I was wrong. Daniel nodded. Thank you for saying that. She looked at Mia's photograph on the screen of his phone. Is your daughter okay? Daniel's expression softened. She's doing better. I'm glad. He placed the $7 bill back into his wallet. Then he walked out. For a few minutes, everything seemed finished. But the story had already spread beyond the bank. Someone inside the branch had mentioned the incident to a friend. The friend posted about it online. The story gained attention. Bank humiliates father over $7. Then someone discovered who Daniel was. The headline changed. Bank humiliates billionaire customer over $7. But he refuses special treatment. Daniel hated the headline. He didn't want publicity. He called the reporter. I wasn't treated badly because I'm a billionaire. I was treated badly because they thought I was poor. That's the real story. The reporter asked. Are you saying the bank should have treated you differently if they knew your wealth? No. Daniel paused. I'm saying they should have treated me exactly the same. The story went viral. People began sharing their own experiences. A retired teacher wrote about being charged a fee she couldn't afford. A young father described being laughed at when his card declined. An elderly woman said she had once been told to come back when she had enough money to matter. Daniel read the messages late into the night. He could have ignored them. He could have told everyone that he wasn't responsible for fixing the banking system. But one story caught his attention. A single mother wrote, I stood in that same branch last winter with $12 in my account. I asked if they could waive a small fee because my son needed medicine. They told me to come back when I had enough money. Daniel stared at the screen. The words reminded him of Mia. He called his financial advisor. I want to do something. How much? Enough to make a difference. The advisor paused. What exactly? Create an emergency fund. For whom? For people who need small amounts of money. How small? Whatever keeps them from falling through the cracks. Within weeks, Daniel established a community assistance program. It wasn't a flashy foundation. There were no photographs of him handing over giant checks. No giant banners. No speeches. The program quietly helped people with emergency utility bills, prescription costs, groceries, and transportation. The maximum grant was intentionally modest. Sometimes it was only $50. Sometimes $100. Sometimes $7. When reporters asked why he had chosen such small amounts, Daniel gave the same answer. Because sometimes $7 is the difference between someone keeping their lights on and sitting in the dark. The bank eventually partnered with the program. The manager who had once told Daniel there was nothing more to discuss became one of its strongest supporters. The teller also volunteered. She often told new employees, Never assume you know someone's story. Months later, Daniel received a handwritten letter from her. She had left the branch and started working at a nonprofit. The letter said, "I thought I was looking at a man who had failed financially. I didn't realize I was looking at a father doing everything he could to take care of his child." Daniel read the letter twice. Then he showed it to Mia. She was sitting at the kitchen table doing her homework. "What do you think?" She read it, then looked up. "Did she learn?" "I think so." Mia smiled. "Good." Daniel laughed. That evening, he took Mia to their favorite restaurant. She ordered pancakes. Again, why do you always order pancakes for dinner? They're better at night. Daniel shook his head. That's your argument? Yes. He laughed so loudly that the people at the next table turned around. While they waited for their food, Mia looked at him. "Dad." "Yes." "Are we rich?" Daniel smiled. "Yes." "How rich?" "Very. Like millionaire rich." He chuckled. "More than that." She thought about it. "Can I have a pony?" Daniel laughed. "No." "Why?" "Because ponies are a lot of work." "But you said we're rich." "Being rich doesn't mean buying everything you want." Mia considered this. Then she smiled. "I think I like being normal." Daniel looked at her. "So do I." He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. He had spent years building his fortune. He had owned companies, made investments, sat in meetings where billions of dollars were discussed. But none of that mattered as much as this. His daughter laughing across from him. That was his real wealth. The next morning, Daniel closed the old bank account. The manager called personally. "Are you sure?" Daniel looked at the $7 bill sitting on his desk. "Yes." "Can we ask why?" Daniel smiled. "Because the account has served its purpose." He placed the $7 bill into a small box containing old memories from his wife. There was a photograph,